Financially, be able to provide for yourself and the people you care about. That's pretty straightforward. Physically, you don't want to have a physical need for somebody to have someone around you. Emotionally, got to have control over your emotions. Don't let your emotions lead you by the nose. Intellectually, don't let other people lead you by the nose. Don't let the media do it. Don't let the government do it. Think for yourself. And spiritually, have your own relationship with God. Have your own relationship with your higher power. Welcome to the Sovereign Man Podcast. I am your host, Nicky Billou, and I'm here with one of my regular men, Rob Arpa. What's going on, Arpa?
Not much.
That's my man. So listen, we are having the inaugural episode of the Sovereign Man happening right now. And let's talk a little bit about why we've created the Sovereign Man Podcast. Let's talk a little bit about what is a sovereign man, what is this movement of sovereign men that we're looking to build. And I want to first pay homage to Ryan Michler. He wrote the book Sovereignty. He is the founder of the Order of Man movement, a fantastic movement of men. He's got a fantastic podcast called the Order of Man Podcast. And really, he gave me, through the title of his book, the inspiration to create the name, the Sovereign Man Movement. And we created a Sovereign Man Podcast and this movement because we intend to help men have dominion over themselves and over their own lives. We want men to be self-sufficient in every way possible. We want them to be self-sufficient financially. We want them to be self-sufficient physically. We want them to be self-sufficient emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Super important that a man be self-sufficient, have dominion over his own life, Arpa. And that's why we created this. I'm excited to be doing this with you, man.
Yeah, it's exciting times.
Yeah, man, 1,000%. So, Arpa, let's have a discussion, man, about what is a sovereign man. So talk to me about what is your understanding of what is a sovereign man, and why is it important for a man to be a sovereign man in this day and age?
Yeah, so I think you've already, alluded to that. And really, a sovereign man is a man that can stand on his own 2 feet and isn't reliant on anyone else for his own success and well-being. Not to say that he can't depend on other people to help him out, because Lord knows no man can do it alone. But a man should be able to take care of himself on his own.
You really should, right? I mean, 50, 60 years ago, prior to 1960, that's what it meant to be a man. It wasn't up for debate. There was no controversy over this society-wide. A man had to be able to stand on his own 2 feet, take care of himself, take care of his family. So society's gone a little wrong with that, right? And part of why we're doing this podcast and we're creating this movement is to be one of the men, one of the groups of men that are all about, Ryan Michler calls it reclaiming and restoring masculinity. So we don't want to steal his phrase because it's his phrase, but it's very powerful. It's very true. Really, I want to see masculinity be restored to its place of honor in society. And I want to see manliness be something that's looked upon with respect rather than looked down upon. And phrases like toxic masculinity need to go because honestly, they're part of the problem, right? They're basically about putting men down. And when you put men down, you destroy society. It's almost like there's an evil force out there that's trying to divide and conquer the genders. Because when they do that, when you weaken men, a society is susceptible to being conquered from without.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it was in Stefan Arniel's book. He was describing how a pendulum swings from one extreme to the other. And I think part of our movement right now is to try and get that pendulum to start swinging in the opposite direction, because there's a lot of femininity out there. Not to say that it's all bad, but too much of a good thing is bad. And we need men to be back to where they are. We need men that keep their word and do what they say they're going to do, and not not the type of men that we have now that look for clauses as way out, or would rather lie to you and tell you they'll do something when really they won't do it, because at the end of the day, they know they can talk their way out of it or whatever. So yeah, and we need, I think having a stand for men to, in that sense of masculinity and not the macho stuff that they've coined the phrase toxic masculinity, masculinity now. Yeah,
What the hell
yeah,
did you just say, man? Say that again,
yeah.
bro.
I don't even know what I said. We'll have to play that one back. It's been a long day in the sun, but yeah, we need to get back to when men were men, and we used to be, men used to hold contracts on a handshake, and no one would ever mess that up. Last thing you want to do is be known as a man with a shitty word.
Yeah, man, because you know what? Uh, if a man's word is crap, he's gonna lose faith in himself. I say this in one of the CEO men's groups that I run. We say that if your word is crap, we want to take your word from crap to mediocre, to decent, to excellent. Because if your word is crap, you're not going to be successful. One of the things that gets in your way of success is when your word is crap. And far too many men, their word is crap. You know what I'm saying, Arpa?
Oh, do I ever know what you're saying? And I can see that from my own experience when we're
Well,
trying
give
to
me an
hire.
example. Give me an example. I think that's
Oh
good.
man,
Tell us a
I
story.
can't
Tell us
tell
a story,
I
Uncle Arpa.
I can't tell you, Baloo, how many times we hire, and like this just happened to me 2 days ago. Kid comes out, 23-year-old, and kid is what he is because the behavior he exerts is boyish behavior. Comes out, interviews, we shake hands. I tell him he's getting a contract later in the night when I get home around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then I text him for the start time the next day. Next day comes and goes, and like, kid's a no-show. Call him, doesn't answer, text, no replies whatsoever. And we had an agreement he would start the next day. I asked him how much money he wanted to get paid, and he goes, I'll, 16, 17. I'm like, look, man, pick one. You want 16 or 17? Give me 16. I'm like, I'll give you 17 if that means you'll show up, tomorrow to work and happy. And yeah, the guy with smiles ear to ear. And then 8:30 the next morning comes and he's ghosted, nowhere to be found. And he's not the first person to do this. I've had men that show up for a day, never come back, and never ask for that one day's pay. It's insane.
Nuts, man. That's nuts. Like I tell you something, man. If you give a man your word, if you give a woman your word, if you give a child your word, and you're a man, you need to keep it. If you don't keep it, like what's with you? How can you have sovereignty over yourself? How can you stand on your own 2 feet if your word out there is shite? It's crap, right? And when your word is bad to other people, you get a reputation as being unreliable, right? You get a reputation as someone who's uncountable. When your word is bad to yourself, you have that reputation with yourself. You start to lose faith in yourself. You tell yourself, I'm going to get up at 6 and you get up at 6:30, you're screwed, man. You're screwed, blued, and tattooed, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's just not going to happen for
I
you.
hear you, man.
It's just not going to happen for you. And that's not a good
That's for
thing.
sure.
That's a bad thing.
Yeah. It baffles my mind sometimes to see how these boys can grow into what's supposed to be their manhood, even though legally they're adults, but they're still acting as children into their 20s, into their 30s. Like I don't know, man. Something's got to give. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that a man who doesn't keep his word cannot be sovereign. And for you to be a sovereign man, there's a few things I think that you need to be thinking about. Number one is, you know what? You need to be earning your keep. You need to be making enough money to be able to pay for an apartment or house, pay for food, and not have to rely on mom and dad or relatives or friends or even worse than any of that, have your girlfriend or your wife pay for you. I mean, there's nothing wrong with your girlfriend or your wife being more successful than you, making more money, but you should be able to pay your own way. You shouldn't have to need her to do that. And I got to tell you, man, when I was younger, I'm not proud of this, but there was a period in my life when I was without work, and my woman had a job, and it was it was comfortable for me not to look for work. And I'm ashamed and embarrassed about this, but there came a point where like, screw it, man, I got to start working. And I did. And as I started working, I started making money. That situation went away, but for years, for like a good 2 years, 2.5 years, I made less money than my woman. And not just less money, but I wasn't even earning my keep. I wasn't even able to contribute enough to, like pay the rent and pay for food. And I'll tell you something, I felt like lower than whale shit. You know what I mean? The bottom of the ocean floor. And it was only when I started to climb out of that and I started making more money, I started to take care of the family. And then, we had kids and I started to, pay for everything, that I felt like, yeah, man, I'm standing up like a man. And right now, the way I see it is like, my job as the man is I got to be taking care of things. I got to take care of the kids. I got to be taking care of stuff. Now, my now ex-wife and I, we don't live together anymore with the kids. And, she's still doing really well because she's always been a go-getter financially. And we split the cost with the kids down the middle. But if push comes to shove, I can take care of it. I can take care of business. And it's important as a man that you take care of your family financially, take care of yourself financially. That's important. To be sovereign, you got to be that guy. And like I say, I haven't got it all figured out. I've screwed up a lot in the past, but it's one of the things that I've come to understand is to be sovereign. You got to take care of the money. You got to take care of providing. That's super important, right? Provide. You got to be the provider. You got to be the one who can take care of business financially. And you got to have a career, or you got to have a business. You got to have something that you are out there honing. If it's your craft, if it's your business, you're growing it. That's part of being sovereign. You're not sovereign if you're dependent on the government. If the government is giving you money, then you are not sovereign. If you are reliant upon the good graces of others, you are not sovereign. If you have a job, you can still be sovereign, right? You don't have to own your own business. But if you are relying on other people to give you alms, to give you handouts, you're not sovereign. What are your thoughts on this, Arpa? I want to hear what you
say. Government handouts. Man, I don't know where this thing is going. I read in the newspaper, online, that our liberal government now is taking on a vote to see if they're going to pass a universal income benefit as officially as their platform for re-election. And I sit there and I look at this and I'm like, I don't know how is this really gonna help? Like
hurt. It's gonna
there's
hurt. There's no question. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna take away people's sovereignty or self-reliance.
I can see a small percentage of individuals, men and women, right? Because this has got nothing to do with men specifically, but I can see a small percentage of men and women who have the aptitude to take advantage of a program like that to better themselves. But I can see like a lot of people just using it as just it's what it is, right? It's free money. It's a redistribution of wealth and free money. It's going to enable a lot of people, and I think that's a big problem too with men and boys these days. There's a lot of enablement. Is that a real word? Or making shit up?
There's a lot of enabling. It's enabling.
Yes. They used to be called helicopter parents, and now they're snowplow parents because they're doing everything. And then when they're out of the picture, Big Daddy government will come over. All you got to do is, cast a vote for the right person, and he'll give you anything and everything you want. And like
our society's going to crash and burn if that happens. There's no question about it.
Yeah, man.
Crash.
Well, it'd be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it actually works. I would prefer if another country did it first. I don't know, maybe Sweden or one of those European countries. That are already
Sweden is less socialist than Canada these days, bro.
Whatever, man.
They stayed open during Corona, bro.
Yeah, I'm pulling countries out of a hat here at random, but the Europeans tend to have a higher socialist mindset than we do. France or whatever. And I'd rather see them go through it first, or a country like Greece because they're broke already. So how much worse could it get? From things I've been hearing, they're pretty much already at an income benefit there. So let's see how they do. Here I think boys are growing up and they're given everything. There's no desire, and there's no fight for survival. Back, I hear when my dad came here, he came here with the whole family came, and they were yeah, I think there were like eight kids. I think when they landed, they barely had enough money for rent for a couple of weeks. Couple of weeks, and they all went to work. My dad never spent a day in school here in this country. He came here, him and his brother was right to work. And there
There it
was that
is.
fight for
That's
survival.
Yeah,
There's no
that's
fight in
part
this
of
country.
sovereignty. So we need that's part of our job here in this movement is we're showing men how to do that, how to basically take back their balls, how to take back their warriorhood and get out there and make it happen. So you gotta go out there, you gotta make money, you gotta earn your keep. Do not rely on others, or you will never be sovereign. You will never live the life of your dreams. You're never gonna live life as the best version of yourself. And we want you to live life as the best version of yourself. That's very important as far as we're concerned. So that's step one of being sovereign. Step two of being sovereign is you can't be needy. You can't need people. I was a man who needed women. I was a man who needed a woman for a while, for a period of my time, especially when I was younger. And I got to tell you, that hurt me, right? Because I wasn't count honorable. I was an energy vampire. And again, to my deep embarrassment. And when I learned that that wasn't good. That was making me less, not more. Uh, I worked on myself, and I got to the point where I didn't need a woman. And I still want my woman. It's good to want your woman. It's good to want a woman, but not needing one's important. Like if I had to, I could live on my own. I can cook for myself. I can clean for myself, or hire people to clean for me. Because I got to be honest, cleaning ain't really my thing. I can, I can do, I can amuse myself, by reading and by watching UFC fights. I'm digging UFC fights, man. They're fun and cool. I don't need a woman. I don't need my woman. I want my woman. I don't need my woman. If she doesn't come hang out with me, I'll be fine. You follow me? And I think that's that.
Yeah,
Now
man.
I'm talking about me, but I think that that's something that's important for every man to get himself to a place where he doesn't need people. He doesn't need anybody, because if you need people, then you're coming from a place of weakness. You're coming from a place of wanting to, like, be an energy vampire and suck with your need. You take away from people rather than build them up and lift them up. What are your thoughts on that, Arpa?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that neediness is it's like it's almost like social leverage. It's leverage on the wrong side. You're on the wrong side of the leverage, because when you're needy and dependent, the other person can control you because they know that they can pull that need away. You hear what I'm saying there, Blue? Like
Totally,
I,
bro.
I, I realize
Totally.
this. I have to say I'm a pretty lucky guy, because I learned a lot of hard lessons, and I learned them quick. And I had an ex girlfriend, three or four before my wife, and that's where I was. I was a needy man. I was always at her place, doing whatever she wanted, always with her family. Uh, More or less lost my friends, gave them up, and totally manipulated by this woman. And lucky for me, I was working with another man, a good friend of mine from elementary school. We
Hmm.
were working for his brother, friend of mine, Nick Sasso, great man. And we were in the company van driving off to a store, whatever, and we're shooting the breeze. And I'm telling him how shit's going down, and he looks at me, he's like, Rob, he goes, you really need to end this. This is not going well for you. He goes, I was in your seat. You need to do it. And thank God I listened to him, and I ended that. And I ended that. Not that she ended, I ended it. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did, because I would have been, another statistic that we have these days. I would have been married in my 20s, divorced in my 30s. God knows where I'd be, and I'm glad that came to an end. Learned a valuable lesson there.
That's good. That's good. Uncle Arpa stories, man. I love Uncle Arpa stories, man. That's going to be a
That's
segment
funny.
on the Sovereign Man podcast. Uncle Arpa stories. Let's love it. All right. Okay. So we've got two elements of being sovereign that we've gone into. Let's go into a third. I think this is a very, very important one. You need to be emotionally self-sufficient as a man. You need to be emotional. Like a man who takes counsel from his emotions, right, is a weak man, is a man who cannot be sovereign, is a man who
Yeah.
cannot have control over his life. General George S. Patton, America's greatest fighting general of the 20th century, okay? Like, bar none, like blood and guts Patton, he said, take not counsel of your fears. And I say a corollary to that ought to be take not counsel of your emotions. So talk to me, Mr. Arpa, about this pillar of
Yeah.
the sovereign man.
Yeah. So with when it comes to emotions, again, I get into benders with women. It's like, what I always, how do you feel? How do you feel? I'm like, feel. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't. I as a man I am today, I only understand three feelings. Fear is prominent. Um, uh, Anger, is one I understand, and the occasional time of happy, triumph. That's about it. Everything else may or may not. I don't know if it even not sure if it even exists. But a man needs to be able to control his anger, and that's for sure. You need to be able to control your anger and be able to combat your fears 100%. Any man that cannot control his anger is going to look like that toxic masculinity bullshit that's going on right now, right? Men getting in, it's okay for boys to get into fist fights and stuff. When you get to a certain maturity level, like, really should be able to leave that to absolute last resort, if that's even possible.
Because you have no
And
choice,
especially,
man.
yeah, if you're like a squirrel that's cornered and stuff like that, I get it. And then sometimes there's other dudes out there that are just big ass douchebags and deserve a punch across the jaw. But those cases are so rare, so rare.
I mean, in this
And
day and age, that
usually,
can
if
get you in trouble. I mean, that could throw you in jail for 10 years if you hit the wrong guy and you break his jaw and put him in a coma or something, right? I mean, you got to think about that. That's like, is it really
hopefully
worth it?
it's worth it. Yeah, well, you never know, man. You see some of these videos that guys are posting up on YouTube. Some of those guys, they deserve it, But again,
They may deserve
a
it, but
man that
even if
deserves
they
it.
deserve it, do you want to spend 10 years of your life incarcerated because they deserve it? Because that's the
I don't know.
society and the world that we live in right now. Like, we don't live in a time where that's really well understood, right?
Yeah, usually a man that deserves a shot across the head knows he deserves it, and I don't know. I don't know too many men that have played the little boyish behavior of crying out to mommy government because he got smacked for being a douche. That usually doesn't happen. Usually, what
It
ends up
does in this
happening
day and
is,
age, man, because you got a lot of beta boys out there, bro.
yeah, you might be right. I'm not too in touch with what's on the street right now. I know when I was growing up, if you stepped out of line, getting a smack across the head was pretty normal.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. But today it ain't. It ain't
But
so.
the
I mean, things
toxicity,
escalate and people get killed. Today it's like there's either no fighting or it just what massively escalates. People get killed. People get hurt, and that's what I'm saying is, look, I was in a situation the other day where I was in a lineup to go buy a computer, and this I walked in the store. There was COVID or whatever, and there was a couple there, and you know was kind of unaware when I did it. The lady kind of looked at me, gave me the stink eye. The person in the store said, "Please step outside until they're done." I said, "Oh, sorry." I stepped outside. She came out and she started just yammering at me, and I just said, "Hey, listen, you know what? Whatever." And she started swearing at me. So I swore back at her. Her guy comes flying out and said, "You shouldn't talk to a lady like that." Like, face, like, just right by my nose. And like, man, I was like, whoa. I felt fear. I felt anger. And that could have easily gotten into an altercation where I could have gotten hurt, he could have gotten hurt. And over me buying a computer, his behavior was outrageous. Her behavior was even worse. Did she deserve me like telling her that? Totally deserved it. But honestly, in the future, I just said, thank you, man. And I just let her keep walking because I don't want to get into it with idiots. I mean, this was an idiot, total idiot. His woman was an idiot, total idiot, behaved like idiots. And I behaved like an idiot because I engaged with him. What I should have done is just said, you know what? I'm sorry. You're right. I shouldn't have come in. I just wasn't paying attention. My apologies. And just kill him with kindness. You know what I mean? Kill him with kindness. Because honestly, I want him out of my life. I don't want to get into a fight with this dude or with this lady over like a lineup situation and going into a store. That ain't worth it. That's like insane, man. I want to spend my time getting that computer and getting home, not be worried about, am I going to spend 10 years in prison over this? Or am I going to be cut up and be in a hospital bed and maybe like be incapacitated or maybe even lose my life over what? Over stupidity. And that's what having control over your emotions is. Now, I had some control over my emotions, but I could have done a lot better job of controlling my emotions in that sense. And I've been working on being sovereign as a man in that respect. So I have full control over my emotions in these situations. I don't get into them.
Yeah.
In this society. Now, if there's a post kind of modern society apocalypse and we lose all governmental things, and all bets are off, man. Anyone talks to me like that, there's going to be a totally different reaction. But we don't live in that world.
Amen.
We don't live in that world.
No,
Not right now.
definitely
Anyways.
not. We still live in a society of rules and regulations,
and that's a good thing. And that's a good thing. So as a sovereign man, you got to be able to control your emotions. Even if you lived in that world, you still got to be able to control your emotions, because even if you have to take action and defend yourself, protect your family, protect your life, you want to take that action not from being run by your emotions, but by being able to make a sober-minded judgment that this is a necessary thing to do. And so there were Uncle Arpa stories, and there were Uncle Billou stories. So now we've got two segments here on the show, man. Uncle Arpa stories, Uncle Billou stories.
Oh, yeah, we got lots of stories, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So we've got those three elements of being a sovereign man that we've outlined so far. Now, I think it's also important to be intellectually sovereign. And let me talk a bit about this, because you know what?
Definitely.
You got to think for yourself as a man. You cannot let other people lead you around by the nose. Think this, like this whole COVID thing, that dude Fauci. No, you don't need to wear a mask. That's March 2020. You don't need to wear a mask. No mask, no mask, no mask, mask, no nothing, mask, no mask, no mask. And today, you got to wear a mask. You got to wear a mask. You got to wear two masks. Not only no, you got to wear a mask, you got to wear two masks. Even three is better than 4 or 5. What the hell? Who is this dude? Who is this clown? Seriously, a year ago, he was telling us masks are like not going to do anything. And today, you absolutely must wear a mask, must wear a mask. Man, you got to think for yourself. Bro, you got to look. Why would you wear a mask? Like, honestly, a year ago, COVID was a thing, right? COVID was scary. We thought it could kill like so many people. Right now, it's kind of clear. It's very dangerous to some people, but for most of us, it ain't dangerous at all. And you got to be able to think for yourself. Don't even take my word for it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm full of crap, right? But you got to be able to think for yourself. You got to be able to read the books. You got to listen to the podcasts. You got to make up your own mind. You got to have your own judgments. That's what it's all about, right? That's what it's all about. A man's got to think for himself. Super important.
And besides, COVID, because I know it's the topic du jour, because it's the media does a fantastic job of keep rubbing that shit in our face. I think what men need to be able to have that mental capacity to be able to navigate the bullshit that we get fed by media and marketers. There's and how many times you see a brand that's called World's Best? Well, who voted it World's Best? Like, come on. There's that thing, like, I find that people just take everything that's fed to them as truth. Everything that comes out of media. I want to talk, a bit about, Donald Trump. And I know a lot of men will be like, Trump. Oh, yeah. Okay, listen, that man stood up and called the media out, calling it fake news and all that stuff. And you know, I'm sitting here looking at the way the news reports not all the facts. They fact pick to support an opinion, and they just force that. And everyone else that's sitting there listening is taking this opinion as factual content. It's like, dude, like open your eyes. And Trump got roasted for that by that media. Ever since he called out that the media for fact picking and building a specific opinion against him, it was all no holds barred. They just went after that man oh man, like he was the last deer in the forest. It was insane. I've never seen a political figure hunted like that. And here we have this other boy that's running our country, and the media loves him. Why?
Yeah, he's a joke, man. He's a joke. He can't.
Like, oh,
he's a joke.
Total joke.
He's a joke.
Total
He's a joke. He's an idiot.
But men need to have that capacity to be able to discern whether the media that they're supplied is giving them the whole truth or just a partial.
Clearly not. It's clearly not. The media has an agenda. In both Canada and the United States, media is owned by corporations that have an agenda, and they're pushing a particular line. So you not only should be asking yourself, can I trust the media? You should be telling yourself, I cannot trust the media. You need to completely do your own thinking, your own research. Why you want to listen to this show is because we're going to bring you the truth, okay? We're not going to let a bunch of crap come and knock you across the head. If you want to be successful in life, you can't allow this. You can't allow this BS, this bull crap to be whacking you across the face. And you can't let these people think for you. Think for yourself. Whatever the media says, immediately distrust it. Immediately think they're lying to you. Start thinking for yourself. Start reading the books. Start studying. Listen, if you have bought into the idea, for example, that socialism is a good thing, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Socialism's a dumb thing. You need to start reading and educating yourself. You need to read history, okay? You need to read books by people like Zbig Brzezinski, okay? You need to read books by people like Dr. Richard Gregor. These were men from Eastern Europe, okay, who fled Eastern Europe and came to America and Canada. And it's your job to go read what socialism did to their countries, how many millions of people that it killed, so that you can understand that this is an abomination, is an evil, evil, evil system of government. But don't even take my word for it. Go do some reading. Go do some research. All right? And until you do that, don't buy what people are saying to you.
Totally. So when my wife and I went on our honeymoon, our last stop was in Budapest, Hungary. And Hungary is still not recovered from when they were under Soviet control. And the communists, when they had control of Hungary, it was a drain. They drained it of resources, manpower. Men were forced into slave labor. It's not pretty. They still have buildings up there with bullet holes in the plaster and stuff, and they're still recuperating. They're not at 100% yet. And it's been. I think they lost that control sometime back in I think it was the early 80s. But again, that it has an everlasting effect. So if you really think socialism's that great, go talk to someone from that era. Someone that was under the thumb of the Iron Curtain, and see how good is it. Now, let's face it, man. At the end of the day, everyone's going to look out for number one. Like, look what happened to our country when it comes to. And I hate to bring it up again now. Is COVID? COVID comes up all of a sudden. U.S. wants to take care of their own citizens first. I get that, and then so does the EU. They start pulling that same stunt too. And then China. Don't even start me on China. So here we are now. We're Canada. We're supposed to be one of the best countries in the first world, and I think there's third world countries that are vaccinating faster than we are. Like, dude, come on, really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Where are we?
Crazy. We could definitely do better, and we should be vaccinating the most vulnerable people, the people who actually need it, over people that are the age of of you and I and younger. It's crazy. It's completely crazy. So anyways, you need to be thinking for yourself. It's important, a part of being a sovereign man. So you got to read some books. You need to read Stefan Arnio's book. You need to read Stefan Arnio's book, Strong Times, Hard Times Create Strong Men. You need to read my book, Finish Line Thinking, How to Think and Win Like a Champion. You need to be listening to my podcast, my other podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution, and you need to be reading Brian Mickler's book, Sovereignty. It's a really good book that'll give you some clues about how to be a sovereign man. So these are some things that every man needs to do. So you got a story for us? We got one of Uncle Arpa's stories. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So I'm visiting some family in Chicago, Illinois, and I have my cousin Dino. He's a great man. He's a bit of a wild character, always great laugh. And I was staying with him one summer for a couple of weeks at his place, and every morning he would sit there and he would watch Bloomberg News for maybe half an hour, and then he would switch to RT. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him I'm like, dude, man, you're American, man. RT's Russian Times. And he looks at me, he goes, Rob, he goes, you got to look at both sides of the story to figure out where the truth lies in the middle. And I'm like, wow, I never thought of that, watching Bloomberg, CNN, and then trying to see what the other side of the story is. And that's one thing I think we're lacking here in this country. Everyone just
here's what's sad right now. Russia Today. It's called not Russian Times. It's actually Russia Today. Russia Today is mostly a propaganda news channel. Okay, it's Today. I trust it more than I trust CNN. I mean, that's crazy, right? Because CNN is not mostly a propaganda channel. CNN is a propaganda channel. And, Project Veritas, led by James O'Keefe, revealed this. They basically exposed CNN. And then today, Twitter promptly censored James O'Keefe's personal Twitter account. It's insane, bro. That's why people need to be thinking for themselves. You as a man got to think for yourself. Do not be led around the nose, brother. All right. And the other thing is, man's got to have spiritual self-sufficiency. He's got to have spiritual dominion over himself. So, Mr. Arpa, what are your thoughts on that? Please expand on that.
That's probably the hardest one to figure out. And I think if, for most men, if you're covering the others, the spiritual one kind of seems to come together. It's about being good with your place in the universe. Not reliant on somebody else for your own spirituality. Like, sure, if you're like me, you were born and raised Catholic, Roman Catholic, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you got to be able to own that. You can't totally rely on someone else for your own place with God. And whether you believe in a God or not, you need to be able to do that on your own and stand on your own 2 feet with that. You can't be reliant on someone else to tell you how to do and be in your spiritual self.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. You've got to be able to embrace spirituality on your own. I think, I'm a Christian as well. I was brought up in a Christian church, and then I grew up during the Islamic Revolution, and I just saw these people in the name of religion committing the most heinous and horrible crimes. And so to me, it's very important that you come to your own understanding as a man of what spirituality is. Connect with your God your own way. I think reading the Bible, if you're a Christian, is good. Reading the Quran, if you are a Muslim, is good. Reading the Torah, if you're Jewish, is good. Reading the Bhagavad Gita, if you're Hindu, is good. These are important texts for you as a man to be able to embrace. You need to go and worship God yourself and in your own way. God exists. God is good. Don't put a man or an institution between you and your God. And I think that's what being self-sufficient in the area of spirituality is all about. As a man, you need to basically come to your own relationship with God. That's very important. That doesn't mean you can't listen to people who are in organized religion. Not at all. You can participate in that. There's many very good and faithful people there that are really trying to do good work and help other people reach their own relationship with God. But be careful not to be taken in by anybody who's a charlatan, who's trying to impose control over you through pretending that they're really in favor of a religion, but they're just really trying to use that religion in order to impose control over you. And that's very, very important. And communism and socialism are their own forms of religion who are trying to impose control over you. And they're trying to take away your relationship with God, take away your sense of spiritual dominion over yourself. Don't let them do that. Don't let them do that. You need to, as a man, do that for yourself. I went to a period in my life where I was a Christian, and then I pulled away from religion. And honestly, I've come back to religion. I've come back to God and spirituality through my religion, through being a Christian and through reading the Bible. All that's been fantastic, very important, very powerful for me.
Yeah. And I think, for we get, getting back to the intellectual self-sufficiency, that men need to look at how some of these organizations have operated in the past to see where their roots really are. And when you're going to services and such, just to be mindful, be mindful and aware of some of the messages that are coming, because a lot of it is good and some of it's control, and that's what it is. And if you find God going to a service, whether it be, mass at church or some other sort, type service, that's great. Just be mindful when they start, when the asks are there and the instructions come out. Be a man, stand on your own 2 feet. If you decide that what they're saying is right and you want to go along, then fantastic. If not, just be mindful. That's all I gotta say.
Very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. So we've gone through the 5 pillars of sovereignty, of being a sovereign man. These are very, very important, right? So let's get back to them. Number 1, you need to be financially self-sufficient, have financial dominion over yourself. Number 2, you need to have physical self-sufficiency. You need to have physical dominion over yourself. Okay, number 3, you need to have emotional self-sufficiency. You need to have emotional dominion over yourself. Number 4, you need to have intellectual self-sufficiency. You need to have intellectual dominion over yourself. And number 5, you need to have spiritual self-sufficiency. You need to have spiritual dominion over yourself. The recap on financially, be able to provide for yourself and the people you care about. That's pretty straightforward. Physically, you don't want to need somebody. You don't want to have a physical need for somebody to have someone around you, right? Emotionally, got to have control over your emotions. Don't let your emotions lead you by the nose, right? Intellectually, don't let other people lead you by the nose. Don't let the media do it. Don't let the government do it. Think for yourself. And spiritually, have your own relationship with God. Have your own relationship with your higher power. And do not interpose someone else between you and them. Now, that doesn't mean you can't follow an organized religion. You absolutely can. That can be very good for you, but make sure you have your own independent relationship as well. You're not relying just on listening to somebody else and whatever they have to say. That's dangerous. When a man says, whatever he says, I agree with, that means you've abdicated your ability to think. You've abdicated your ability to intuitively connect with God. That is not a good thing. That's a bad thing. So these are the key elements of what it is to be a sovereign man. Uncle Arpa, this was fun. Your stories were great.
Yes, it was. Yeah,
we had a blast.
It's been good.
It's been good. Men, and for you women who are listening, on behalf of men that you care about, thank you for tuning into the Sovereign Men podcast. Our purpose is to equip you with what you need to thrive in today's environment. And that is the purpose of the Sovereign Man movement. That's why we have this podcast together today. Join with us, band with us, leave us a rating, leave us a review if you enjoyed this, because that's how we grow the movement. That's how we move forward. Until next time, be strong, be well, be sovereign.
Thank you for listening to the Sovereign Man podcast. If you're ready to take charge of your life and become the man you've always wanted to be, we invite you to join the movement at sovereignman.ca.